Good evening and welcome to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen Workshop. It is 6:30 p.m. We are going to start with our Citizens Forum. Each person will have 3 minutes to speak. When you come up to the podium, please state your name and address. First, we have Steve McGill.
Hey everybody, good to see you again. Steve McGill, 177 Blair Road, Laverne, Tennessee. As a citizen of Laverne, I'm coming before you tonight to ask you to consider what do you want for the future of our city. Over the last 7 months, I've watched the sausage being made. I understand it's always uglier watching the process of government, churches, charity, anything come together than most people realize. But as I've watched, listened, argued, and debated over the last few months, I've come to a conclusion. I don't know who we want to be as a city. I know we want retail. Believe me, I've heard that message loud and clear. But what kind of retail? What kind of housing do we want? I've heard the city ask the traffic planners to show us what happens if everything west of I-24 develops at its maximum density. But I've not ever heard any discussion of whether that's what the city wants or not. I hear growth is coming and we can't stop it. But so far, I've seen a refusal to use any of the tools the city has to moderate that growth. So tonight, surprisingly, I don't ask you about Arbor Ridge. We're all perfectly clear where we stand, where you stand, where I stand on that rezoning. Instead, I want to ask you about 147 Jones Mill Road, which will also be on the agenda for Tuesday. Why are you rezoning this 10 acres in the middle of an R1 land lock to R2? I heard the answers in the Planning Commission when the chairman said, well, there's R2 across the street, so we should allow this. Once again, the single biggest developer in Laverne gets what he wants, and the surrounding neighbors will be diminished. If this is your vision for Laverne, the highest density possible, then I hope you proclaim it loudly at the next election so people can get to know what you truly believe. I have seen nothing that indicates you care at all about preserving the spirit or character of our neighborhoods or that you're any different than the boards who've come before you. You're just as willing to sell our soul to developers, but maybe with a little more masonry this time.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have Mr. Jim McFarland.
I'd like to thank the city, alderman, mayor, staff, and city attorney for all the hard work that's been put into this project. Everyone is aware this process started over 6 years ago, and in the last 3 years it's been with BRS. I heard in prior meetings that compromises have been made for both sides, and I agree, they have been. I've seen the city grow. I'm 58, been out there my whole life, and feel like myself and the families assisted the city in many ways, water, sewer, road projects, and it's helped develop the entire area around the property. This farm property is not in the country anymore, it's in the city. I've got constant trespassing, property damage. Someone uses it for a driving range, trash dumped, ATVs, just you name it, and it's happened. Most recently, I'm watching television, and I see a news reporter out in the middle of my field and some of my neighbors, and that's trespassing, and I was never asked for permission to get on the property. It's been in the city limits 15 or 20 years. It's not in the country anymore, it's in the city. And thanks to all of you again for all your hard work.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have Bill Caney.
Bill Caney, K-A-N-N-E, 1166 Lake Road, Nolensville, Rutherford County. Thank you for your time, everyone. I'm up here. This project directly affects my life, my family, my investment in my property. I understand growth is inevitable. I get that. What I have a problem is the commercial aspect. If we wanted convenience, it's a mile and a half away. There's 2 gas stations within 3 miles away that just opened. There is no need for commercial in this project. The road's not safe. Making it wider only adds more people, which more people make it unsafe. We get all that. But what I'd like to say is I don't have any experience in city government, never been up here before, never been in front of any elected officials before. And I have nothing to compare this to, but the lack of transparency and honesty is disgusting. I have nothing to compare it to, like I said. And it seems like you've all made up your mind, and I just don't understand on why this can't be a two-way street. I know there has been some concessions, but like I said, I understand growth is inevitable. But the commercial aspect is unnecessary at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have Kim Gentry.
Kim Gentry, 1047 Waldron Road. Tonight's question is how can you assure me and my neighbors as adjoining landowners to a significant perimeter on the south side of Arbor Ridge development that you have our best interests in mind? To date, you have not had the best interests of this grassroots group of citizens in mind except through the November 2020 elections. To be honest with you, throughout the process, integrity of your word has been forfeited by your own choice. I have lost faith in the system with this leadership in supporting the people. I'm going to pose yet some unanswered questions and clarifications that need to be made, which I hope are not falling on deaf ear, and I hope you're making notes. In the January 26 PC meeting, Mr. Hahn stated at minute 4406 that this retail is neighborhood commercial, not for highway traffic. And again, later he clarified, there's not enough demographics to support too much grocery, even with the new rooftops coming in. However, Mayor Cole and his followers have propagated via support of a gap analysis that there's potential for recouping $68 million in leakage. Analysis presented at the June 1 forum noted that throwing around a $68 million figure is inherently deceiving and that the business is restricted in the owned plan limits the actual amount of revenue to $13.98 million, and that's revenue, not tax revenue, which has been inferred to the general public. Infrastructure. Discussion at the March 2 BOMA meeting between Vice Mayor No and Kyle Brown. Mr. Brown noted that the caps for sewage told the Metro would be fine with additional rooftops. Water, however, was noted as an issue, also in 2017 noted as such. Mr. Brown noted at 2 hours and 7 minutes in that there was a capital project list with a project to change the water main from 8 inches to 12 inches, specifically at Blair, which would be needed. At the May 27th BOMA workshop, when Vice Mayor No pinpointed Mr. Leach to rectify his initial response from the May 25th PC meeting at minute 1559, Mr. Leach referenced the water line on Blair as being 6 inches, which based on Mr. Brown's notation would be actually half the size needed to accommodate the additional rooftops on this proposal. This issue needs to be investigated and resolved before approving any additional rooftops and the road improvement that you have so well worked on. Road improvements. BRS, phase completion and correlation of respective city road improvements has not been publicly clarified since the March approval of the Kimley Horn presentation. At the January 26 PC meeting, minute 4929, Mr. Rasmussen noted that we can't have lots ready and roads not complete. My question to you, Mr. Rasmussen, does the city's timing, are you sure that the road construction will be completed parallel with your phases of construction? And my question to you, BOMA, if they are not complete and they cannot pull certificates, as he said we cannot do, will this mitigate their way of paying $300,000 to the city in their installments? Procedural issues from the very beginning remain at the forefront of our mission, and the list continues to grow.
Thank you, ma'am. Your time is up.
Thank you.
Next, we have Amy Owsley. Apologies if I misspoke that last name.
No, it's okay. You wouldn't be the first and not the last, but you actually got it right. It is Amy Owsley. I live at 1131 Ben Hill Boulevard in the McFarland Point subdivision. My husband and I moved to South Waldron Road area in September of 2014, and I really feel like it's our forever home. It's a community that we love, and we love the character and the beauty of this area so much. I felt compelled to come today to voice my opposition to the rezoning of Arbor Ridge. I'm not a speaker. This is out of my comfort zone. I've emailed you, and I've signed the petition, as with others, and I believe hundreds of others. And I've emailed past aldermen, because I know this is not a new issue. But I have a lot of concerns about the negatives to this development, the way that it is still currently being put forth, the traffic, the cramped lot sizes, the cramped house sizes, and now the possibility of retail are all huge concerns for us. I drive these roads weekly, if not daily, to and from my children's school and to other places, and I will be directly impacted by this development. When the Planning Commission gave a negative recommendation to this as it was proposed, and that was disregarded, I just felt my emails and signing petition was not enough, and that I needed to come and just put my face before you as a member of the community who has small children, who does not want to leave Laverne, who wants to stay in this community as it is, and just ask that you please continue to work with both sides of this to try and find ways that we can find solutions to the problems. I thank you so much for your service to Laverne. I know this is not an easy job, and I just really appreciate you having the opportunity for us to speak to you about this issue. I'm not an expert, but I just know from what I've seen about the way this is developed, it is not, we can't have retail in this area. We cannot with what they are proposing for the traffic. It's not going to work. It's not going to be enough. So please continue to push. Use us as your ammo to say it's not enough and to get the things that we need for our community. And I just appreciate y'all so much. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, the citizens forum is closed. Move on to the agenda. The prayer Tuesday night will be by myself. Pledge of Allegiance will be by Alderman Coates. You should all have a copy of the minutes from the June 1st, 2020 public hearing and the regular meeting. We have departmental reports. We move on to old business, second reading ordinance 2021-04, an ordinance to amend the City of Laverne zoning ordinance by changing the official official zoning map for tax map 32 parcel 4 and tax map 29 parcels 40 and 41, consisting of approximately 226.35 acres located adjacent to the intersection of Blair Road and Waldron Road from an R1 low-density residential zoning district to a PDR, planned density residential zoning district. On March 2nd, 2021, the Board of Mayor and Aldermen sent this back to the Planning Commission. It was deferred at the March and April Planning Commission meetings. On May 25th, 2021, the Planning Commission gave an unfavorable recommendation for this rezoning. A public hearing for this item will be held at 6:30 p.m. on July 6th, 2021. I know this is second reading, so we did discuss this last month. Any questions?
Mr. Mayor, I don't have any questions, but I emailed a couple of people today, and I'd like to bring them up to the podium and ask them some questions if I could.
Okay.
Tom Broker, could you come up?
Mayor and Alderman.
Tom, thanks for coming up. I know you didn't have to, and I know I'm pulling you away from a family event, but I think it's important. I'm going to put you on the hot seat a little bit. I know it's a little bit out of my character. But there has been some discussions, and it came up a while ago. When I talked about that 1 mile radius and that $68 million leakage, could you go into detail and give us a better
Sure.
explanation of that?
So just some background on that. Mayor Cole had asked me, and maybe you can fill me in on why and how, but you had asked me one night to pull a report on a 1 mile, corner of Blair Road and Waldron Road, a 1 square mile gap analysis. And it's just that 1 square mile. And I think probably you had questioned like what would fit there, what are we losing? Because we all know we have tremendous amount of leakage throughout the city, and I have some data here that I'd be happy to share with the opposition group. So there is transparency, and with you all, I think some of that has been shared at anyone's request. So what leakage is, retail leakage is basically sales dollars that are leaving, they're exiting our economy and going elsewhere. Tremendous amount of leakage that we have in Laverne is going next door to Smyrna, is going to Nolensville now, the way they're building, and beyond, Murfreesboro and so on. That 68 million was just in that square mile. So I'm going to pull this out, and again, I'd be happy to get this to anyone that would like to look at this as well. But we did it over an entire trade area, Laverne, Tennessee's trade area. And so the defined trade areas is not necessarily the boundaries within the city of Laverne. It's areas that if we put a name any business you want, Best Buy, would somebody from a mile across Antioch drive into Laverne and spend their dollars there? So you have a trade area, and typically it ranges from 7 to 10 to 12-minute trade area. So that 68 million that Ms. Gentry spoke of, that was that 1 square mile. The city of Laverne, if anyone dares to guess at what it is, we're pushing $1 billion. $1 billion, and she is right, it is in sales, equates, we get, per dollar, we get 0.36 on every dollar. That's almost $13, $14 million that would be if we could get all of our potential. The truth is no city typically meets their full potential. I don't care if it's New York City, LA, so on. There is some leakage elsewhere. They go wherever. But we do have, as we know, we have a revenue problem. It wasn't too long ago, I sat in the seat right up there, and people are probably bored of hearing this story, but our finance director, my very first meeting as alderman, came up and said, "I need to speak. We have $48,000 in our general fund." $48,000. What is it right now? Someone throw it out at me? Phyllis isn't here.
23.5.
We're 23 million, 25 million, something along those lines. You had a monthly outgo back then of 1.1 million. We couldn't pay, we were to a point we had to borrow money. We have a revenue problem, and that's throughout the city. Now, we can point fingers at past elected officials, we can point fingers on why we weren't forward thinking like Smyrna, Mount Juliet, so on, but we weren't. And that's just, so we are paying we have the consequences right now. So that 1 square mile, just so we're clear, is just if you dropped a pin on the corner of Blair and Waldron, certainly if you had a quality retailer, and anyone can name who it is, we're going to get more than that 1 square mile that's going to go in there and shop and spend their monies and so on. Smyrna, Nolensville, and so on. I'd be glad to answer more questions as far as that if I wasn't clear enough.
That's, it's hard to, and just for the record, you only used Circuit City or whatever, or whoever it was you
Best Buy.
used
Best Buy.
was an analogy of what they're not coming, but I don't think they are. I
No.
think they're out of business, actually.
No, they're in business. They're
Are they?
just not that I know of looking at Laverne right now. So, but can I say, you made me think of something else, and this is something that I do think that ties right into it. So it's also a tool. It's a tool cities use, counties use, states use. Say how much money are we losing, and why, and how can we get that back into our economy? It's also one that retailers use. Say, wait a minute, where is their gap? So I brought in two. It's been tossed around that the city wants commercial, and I heard a gentleman talk about we don't want commercial, but we can't handle the commercial, and so on. I don't sit up there anymore, so I'm not going to make that decision. But what I will say is this. Commercial is totally, whether it comes in Laverne or Smyrna or Murfreesboro or Nashville, it's totally dependent on them. I may want a Costco sitting in my backyard, but unless it's feasible to them, they are not going to drop their shovels in the ground there. What we do know in the last 4 years, Mayor Cole going beyond and going back into Mayor Waldron's administration, this has been a 4-year project. This has been a 4-year project. So this didn't start last month, 2 months, 5 years ago, or excuse me, a year ago. It started about 4 years ago at least. Certainly, we knew of many different people that came in, again, 2010 to 2016 when I was alderman and looked over there. And we have been very protective of that area, and as this board has as well. But doing their gap analysis and doing their research, they found that this is an area of your median income sits up there and it pushes, and I've seen it vary between 85 and 95,000 over there. Just to give some way so you can understand this, the state average is 56,000. That is a high-end area. Retailers would want to be there just because of the amount of dollars that sit on that side, whatever retailer that is. You can say whatever sector, so on. But just in the last, pre-pandemic, and Alderman Coates, you know this very well because you worked with them, we had two came in, they ran a feasibility study for that area, the area right at the Ridge, directly across the street from Arbor Ridge. One is a entertainment concept, and reasons why, who they are, why they should be in that area, and why it fits in that area. The next thing was a pharmacy and wellness development group. Both of these are run, and again, these are available. Anyone wants to see them or copy. I think by now everyone knows how to get them, and if I can help expedite that, I will do that. But they ran a feasibility study, and they found oddly enough, close in that same ballpark, $68 million of leakage in specialty, in pharmacy, and so on. Nothing exists there. So again, it's a tool they use, that gap analysis. It isn't just Tom or Navy Retail or the mayor saying, hey, run this. It's something that is used everywhere to pinpoint where retail fits, where commercial may fit, and where it doesn't. So again, these feasibility studies aren't cheap. I dare to say these were $10,000 or so that they ran on their own, and basically stating they value that area. They want to be there. And we've heard it from day one, and no matter what sector of retail. Now, does that mean that we pile on? Something I have to say is this. Where you go with the vote, that's up to y'all. I gave up that opportunity years ago, don't want it back, and I wish you the best with your votes. But I wish the best for the city as well. But what I'm trying to get at is we have been protective of that area. The misperception is that we just said, let's 5 years, we fought that group right there, BRS, harder than you fought them. We fought them for 2.5 years. I'm talking knockdown, drag-out fights that just, we were done. We don't want to talk to you, we don't come back. They didn't see it our way, and we weren't seeing it their way. This board, his board, the board I sat on, we're very protective of your area, and we'll continue to be. And if you don't feel that way, that's fine. We can agree to disagree. But the point is, Laverne as a whole is growing. Smyrna as a whole is growing. Nolensville, Middle Tennessee is growing. I saw something that said we are the 13th fastest growing county in the nation right now. Rutherford County is. I don't know how accurate that is, but I saw the Chamber of Commerce actually put that at Rutherford Works. That's huge. That growth is coming. Anyone in this room, you go down Murfreesboro Road, and I'm going to use that, and if there's people that own property on Murfreesboro Road, I apologize. But if we're 30 years ago, 40 years ago, would that have been our vision? Would that have been our vision the way it sits right now? My guess is no. All right? We're working to change it. So how do we, with your decisions and the community, find that middle ground that finds what works over there? What works for revenue? What works for residential? What works for the city? So we can move forward and we can raise the standard of Laverne. So again, I'm getting into my editorials. I said I wasn't going to do that, but I hope that's answered some of your questions as far as that goes.
Tom, you brought up, and I was a part of all that. When I was sworn as mayor in 2014, I was a part of that $48,000, and we had $1.5 million bill. I had to deal with that. When I left in 2018, the general fund was up, just the general fund cash was up to 21 million. We done hard work to get from 48,000 to 21 million. Done a lot of refinancing the bonds and watching our spending. We was lucky on sales tax. And the retail, what you're saying, we've always worked, every administration's always been first priority on retail. Murfreesboro Road, Walden Road, that's the reason, one reason we widened Walden Road back in 2015, traffic-wise and retail. But these people here, on South Water on Blair Road, you know, that's not gonna be no high, you know, you're not gonna have no Circuit City, you know, no,
Agreed.
you know, you're gonna have the neighborhood, you know, you might have a little neighborhood store, gas station, stuff like that. But what you say about we needing retail, you know, I don't think nobody's doubting retail, you know, but I don't really think that's gonna be a hot spot for retail like Circuit City, you know, stuff like that over there.
Nor do we want that. I don't want that. I've heard the
But
residents
you-
say they don't want that.
Everything you said has been correct. You know, each administration, and I've been on this board 15 years, has always worked hard to move Laverne forward. You know, and we've always tried to protect that area over there for single family because that's where the big lots, you know, everybody say, well, we need starter homes. Well, that's what we got Lake Forest for. You know, we've always kind of, you know, you fought hard for the people over there when you was on the board, you know, for single-family dwellings, you know. You kept apartments. It is apartments over there, but apartments come long before. It's just like the apartments other side of Kentucky Fried Chicken. They just started building them 4 years ago, but that was zone apartments way before.
2002.
Even me and Graham even got on the planning commission like, 2000, 2008, 2009, but in them apartments, a lot of times the apartments over there on the other side of the interstate, like, they changed the names. They was zoned way before, like me and Graham, been on the planning commission, that before 2002, you know. But, you know, since our era, you know, we've always tried to keep that area, you know, single family. I know some of the homes on the end of Walden Road, it was zoned, you build on 5 acres only. Then the big heat was when Martin's Bend come in. You know, they was wanting to go R2, and the people made a big uproar, and, you know, we done R1, same as Pinnacle Point, Brookside, in the Ridge, and then you got down Blair Road, you know. But we've tried to keep that, our single family R1, you know, some of it might have been R2, but, you know, single family, but PR, but everything you said is right, you know. I always keyed you over the years. You asked Tom a question, and he want to build you a watch. You know, he explains stuff well, and I appreciate your service to the city, Tom. Thank you.
I appreciate it. I agree with everything you said there. There is things that were not zoned correctly, and I think we're working on changing that. I think there's some things that we have to work on. I want to say this sitting up here. Cole, you came to me before the meeting and asked, what can we do? How can we do this? And I'll extend it again. I'll leave you my cards. Come sit with me, however this goes, and we'll try to work together on this. Because at the end of the day, we all want what's best for the city of Laverne. I'm not political anymore. I don't care to be, but I tell you what I do want. I do want revenue for the city. I do want your property values to increase. I do want what's best for Laverne. We may disagree, but so we can be transparent and we can work together. My door is always open. So again, please call me at any time that you'd like to, and I'll try to keep you up to date or give you some history as well.
We'll definitely do that, because I know good quality retail does generate a lot of revenue, a lot better than, your R1 and 2. So I guess we're looking for a little balance here to assure that we just don't have a gas station in the strips. And I think that's only fair, and that generates y'all a heck of a lot more revenue if we have a good plan to do that.
Steve, do you have any more questions for Mr. Broker?
I did, but I'll be honest, I forgot what it was.
I talked you out of them.
It's been so long, so I should have wrote them down. But no, Tom, I appreciate it, but you have been in just about, I'm assuming, every meeting with BRS. Every time there's been an issue or, because, us as board members, we're not allowed to talk about this, so we have to go through mediation. And of course, when BRS wants to talk to one of us, and you're through all of those meetings. You said this started 4 years ago. From the time it started up until this very evening, right now, Do you feel like there's been a lot of concessions made on both sides and give and take to where there's at least some sort of,
I think there's absolutely, without a doubt, there has been. We can start with one of the things that you and I believe the whole board was not happy with was the townhomes. They were adamant they needed to be there, and you fought very hard for them. And you're right, because of the sunshine law, you had to meet individually. So I would call you all every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks and say, they want to meet with you again. So I had to listen to it, not just once, but 5 times. And so, yeah, I've been well-versed in it. So yes, there've been a lot of concessions. There's been, I'd tell you, there's been a lot of leadership, and I'll say it for all 5 of you. When the gross builders wanted to come in 2000, I want to say it was 2014, 2015, and we voted against it, the last comment that I made is that's where our growth is coming, and we've got to fix the roads. And you guys, you know, whether it be previous administrations allowed you to get to the point where you were fiscally able to do that, $18 million commitment to that side of the road. Because here's the thing. Let's talk about a grocer. You may agree, you may disagree. If, let's say Laverne does not get that grocer, it's still going to go possibly Smyrna, Rocky Fork. It may go to Nolensville, but it will still be in a commute pattern, and those roads need to be widened. One of the number one things that I had to vote against the gross builder product that they were bringing in is the safety issue. You have major safety issues on Blair, major safety issues on the S-curve, and so on. You guys took that upon yourself to do that, and I think that's a big step regardless of what goes there, whether it's R1 homes or if it's a mixed use or so on. So again, concessions, leadership, and I do think that we are moving in the right direction. Laverne sometimes does not seem that's the way it is, but I do think this was a bold and a positive step to move the city forward.
Any other questions for him? Okay, thank you. Or do y'all have any questions?
thank you, Tom.
Only thing I think, you know, Tom's always explained anything real well, and Tom, I appreciate what you've done over the years, and keep up the good work.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Is there anybody else you were wanting?
Yes, sir, but I don't see him. Mr. Campbell, are you filling in for Chip?
I am.
Yes, Chief is on vacation.
Oh, okay. I guess that's why his email was short.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, board members.
It's been come up in comments and meetings. We just voted on the budget, which starts today, and something was come up about wanting more police officers and so on and so forth. So I'm going to start there first. I don't think that more police officers were asked for coming up to that budget. Is that a true statement?
As I understand it, that is correct. There was some organizational changes that were made in the budget, but no new positions, as I understand it.
There's
Is that-
3 positions
Okay.
in the budget. There is a policy person.
Yes,
There
sir.
is a canine unit and handler. And there's one more. Bruce, do you remember what that one was?
We created a sergeant position
Sergeant.
for the K-9 as well. So some of those will be backfilled with new officers.
Okay.
Okay.
Fair enough.
I'm correct.
I just wanted to make
Yes,
sure that I understood that, because if something wasn't asked for, then, you know, there's no way you could put it into the budget. I mean, that, to me, that's pretty good common sense. My second question is this. As far as I know, there's 3 ways to raise money for a city to hire more police officers. Do you know the 3 ways?
Well, the 3 ways, as I understand them, obviously, a raising of taxes would do that, bringing growth into the city, which would generate revenue, obviously. And then there's what's been termed in the media policing for profit, which is absolutely something we're not going to do, I don't think, so.
Policing for profit, like
Yes, sir.
getting out and meeting quotas and things that we read about.
Things
on
like
the-
that, yes, sir.
Yeah, police is out, watch yourself, they're trying to make a quota. And then per capita, just general general knowledge, it's my understanding we're supposed to have 3 officers per 1,000 people.
Yes, sir. There are two major places where that comes from, MTAS and also the FBI national recommendations, 3 officers per 1,000 residents. That would lead us to need 105 minimum officers as we stand today. That does not include officers that would be needed for officers who are in training or on vacation or sick or out for some other reason. We could add 10% to that to 115.
And in your experience, if let's say we had 115 officers, what's the chances of keeping 115 officers employed full-time year-round?
I would say very slim in my 26 years of
Right.
experience here. We would do our best, I know, as a department and as a city, to be good employers and try to keep folks, but you never keep everybody.
And that's what I've heard from talking to folks over in Smyrna and Mount Juliet. I have some good friends up there, and that's kind of basically what they talk about. So this gets me to my point, being we're having this discussion about this particular area. You talked about how's the best way to fulfill police officers, and your number one answer was basically taxes.
Yes, sir.
So if, just common sense, again, if we've got better retail, we've got more taxes coming in, we can hire more officers. Is that a,
I think that's a fair statement, yes, sir. Among many other things that the city can do within prudence and good management to have for our citizens and our visitors here.
all right?
So how many sworn officers do we have currently, and how many open positions do we have?
There are 64 officers today. We have 6 vacancies, 2 being the chief and the deputy chief spots. As a side note, we do have 5 new officers going to the academy next week.
And I can tell you, as somebody who used to spend quite a bit of time in the audience, as some of our long-term staff know, I've been attending meetings since Mayor Irwin was in office, and a large number of vacancies was the norm back, and I'm not talking 6, I'm talking double digits, and I'm sure you've seen that over the years. Is that?
Oh, absolutely, yes, sir. Getting up to full staff is, I don't want to say it's impossible, but it's a very hard thing to maintain.
Well, we're all kind of pulling from the same pool with Nashville, Murfreesboro, Mount Juliet, Nolensville. We're all kind of pulling from the same area, and while we may increase our pay, then we start seeing some officers come our way. Well, then what happens? Murfreesboro, Nashville does a similar thing as well.
Oh, absolutely. It's a very, very small pool, so to speak, to pull from sometimes. And when you're, when you're looking for a job and trying to find the best fit for yourself, obviously salary and benefits is a big draw.
I spoke with one of our new officers yesterday, or day before yesterday, and no, it wasn't the day before yesterday. It was yesterday. Who is here from New York? Mm-hmm. He relocated, both for his family and his own career. So our reach is extending. I know even with the police chief interviews, as Bruce can confirm, we've had applicants from all over the country: Texas, Illinois, New York, here in Tennessee. It's all over. Thankfully, we
Yes,
have a big appeal.
We do. We also have a young man from California here, so we do have coast to coast.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
That's all for me.
All right, sir.
Any other questions?
I got some on a
Yes, sir.
city this size, what is it, 34,000? How many, what's the estimated officers we're supposed to have?
If we do the 3 per 1,000, I believe it was 105.
105, and we got 64 now.
We
And
do.
with 6 vacancies.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
So we're still 35 or 40 understaffed. And when you hire a sergeant or a captain, most time you just move one up most of the time. So you're creating a position, but sometimes you're not adding the force, and you know, and it's hard for a small town like Laverne or somewhere to hire officers, because we, like I say, we in competition with everybody around. And got another thing to keep in mind: the more houses that's built, more people moves in, the higher that ratio is going to go. You know, if we add 300, 600 houses over on Walden Road, you know, that's going to put us that much more behind on the ratio of officers. But I think the police department does a great job with the resources they have, and I appreciate every one of y'all doing the work. But 6 vacancies is been kind of low. You know, I've seen it as high as sometimes 14 to 18 vacancies.
Yes, sir, that is
So
correct.
six is pretty good.
Yes,
But
sir.
then you look at well, we should have 35, and then, you know, realistic, I don't think we'll ever, never have the quota, because, you know, each year the population goes up. We probably always gonna be at least 30 policemen short, you know. But I appreciate it, thank you.
Yes, sir. No.
I will say a lot of credit goes to our interim police chief. He has, I know when he came in, I sat down with him and tasked him with finding quality officers to fill the vacancies. And through some changes in policy, both being able to bring on certified officers who have already made it through the academy, as well as new officers, and expand that pool, they've been able to grow significantly, so.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Thank you. Steve, is there anybody else you're wanting to talk to?
No, sir.
Okay. Anybody else? Well, moving on to second reading, ordinance 2021-14, an ordinance to amend Title 9, Chapter 1 of the Laverne Municipal Code regarding transient vendors. Again, this was discussed last month. Is there any questions about this? Seeing none, let's move on to the massive consent agenda. Ms. Felicia, you might as well go ahead and get comfortable, because you're going to be up here for a while. We're going to start off with approved city bids and purchases. First, we have the artificial synthetic ice rink for the Parks and Recreation Department.
Well, originally this was going to be a bid for rental, but we would like to purchase, because if you look at the price of the rental, for 2 weeks, it's $30,000. For 75, we can buy it, and it can be up longer. And our citizens can enjoy trying to ice skate. I've never done. My comment, the comment to me was, have you ice skated? I said, I don't think I could stand up. They said, we got the cheaters. So they've
So
got
we,
the cheaters that you can hold on to.
We'll get you a walker,
Yeah, they got those walkers.
like they do for skating.
Hey, I can bring my husband's walker. That's right, I can.
We talked a little bit about this at Park and Rec meetings. Just want to make sure I'm clear. If we pass this, we're going to pick out about a 2-week period.
Well, we may go a lot long, we may go about a month. You can go
Come on
longer.
up here, Mr. David.
I suggested that they go longer
Okay.
if they were gonna do it.
She is correct. Our rental period was initially 14 days. Then we looked into the cost difference between actually purchasing it and renting it. So if we were to buy it, we could possibly offer it for a longer amount of time, through Thanksgiving, through Christmas, maybe the whole month of December. Of course, that would depend on staffing, how we would staff it. And then we've also kicked around the idea of maybe offering it for a week in July, do a Christmas in July type thing. I think there's a link, if you guys haven't watched that video. I know when we brought it up at the Park and Rec meeting, everybody had a bunch of questions, so we added that link to it.
It looks good.
The product we are suggesting is probably the thickest product out there. It's 3/4 of an inch. Their main sales guy is based in Knoxville, so we feel like we'd get a lot of playback from him.
And David, is this gonna be, and Felicia, I guess I talked to both of them, is this gonna be something that if we come up with, let's say that 30 days in there, is whatever it is you're thinking about, is that gonna be something that's just for this, or are we gonna be able to rent it out? Are we gonna be able to make any money on it?
I don't know if we would want to rent it out, seeing as the city would own it. I know that was brought up at the Parks Board.
That'd be
If
all-
we would charge the citizens, that would be totally up to the Parks Board and you guys.
What about liability, Bruce? Evan?
There's always liability. There's always gonna be
That's what liability waivers are for, which is something that we utilize at my church, World Outreach Church. They have ice skating usually for about a month or two.
Yes, sir.
And
And we're
they
in the
just-
process of doing that also, going through several waivers and kind of tweaking them so the city will take the place of those businesses. And then if this is approved, we'll forward everything to city administration and then they'll take it on to Evan.
Now, this is the same ice skating rink that Bruce wanted to do the axe throwing on, is that right?
Exact same, so it's dual purpose.
Okay.
Starting not to feel good, Mayor.
Evan, I've heard that those waivers are like iffy at best. Is that a true, is that?
Yes, sir, it is. I mean, the bottom line is, it doesn't hurt to have them, but don't think that means that nothing bad's gonna happen and that no one can sue you, because there are lots of exceptions to those waivers.
Anyone can sue pretty much for any reason at any time, they just need an attorney, whether it's got merits or not.
And the filing fee, and that's it.
Any other
Yes, we
questions on
can.
this?
Only questions I got on the ice rink is, 30,000 rent or 70,000 buy, that seemed like a no-brainer, but
But
maintenance,
let's also
upkeep
look
and
at the
storage.
75,000 includes skates and then the little cheater things and the sharpening machine and various aids to take care of.
The
The
package
skate
deal on the one we're proposing is a lot better. As far as maintenance goes, when it's not in use, we'll store it, so it'll stay out of weather. A lot of communities keep them up year-round, so their lifespan is not as long. The thicker product comes with a 12-year warranty. Lifespan average is 15 to 20 years. It can be reversed, flipped upside down. Panels kind of go together, almost kind of like a jigsaw puzzle. Some of them are dovetailed, some of them are tongue and groove. This is a pretty dense product. It doesn't cause as much dust. You know how your traditional ice ring, they have to scrape it. If it's outside, they have to refreeze it occasionally. This here would have to be mopped every day, blown off, swept off, mopped every day. What we like about this product, the panels are self-lubricating. The lubrication's built into the panels, so as the skates go across it, it brings the lubricant to the top to ease the friction a little bit.
storage, we got a place to put it?
We will find a place, yes, sir.
And I know y'all always, overstressed on manpower. Is this gonna need more employees to take care of it?
I don't think it'll need more manpower. I think if we could staff it with 2 employees and then get some volunteers, I think most skating rings, like the one Mayor Cole's talking about, operates off several staff and volunteers. I think with our park boards, the volunteer organizations in the city, if we were to open it up in the evenings from 4 to 8 and a little bit extended time on Saturday, I don't think we'd have an issue manning it. But if it did come down to us short on manpower, our department would take care of it, yes, sir.
Any other questions?
Mayor, I do want to note that if this is approved by the board, we will have to bring forth a budget amendment. So that would be coming next month if this does get approved on Tuesday night.
That was my next question, was it in the budget? And that-
30,000 is in the budget.
The rental was in the budget.
And
Generally,
that's-
per their contract, they call for 50% down, 50% time of delivery. We have spoken with them. They would take the 30,000 that's in the budget now to secure the product, and then the rest on delivery.
And it is listed in the agenda summary sheets, Alderman Waldron, for the financial impact. It breaks it down and lists that a budget amendment is needed for the remaining $35,000.
I think this would be something super cool, especially for the kids and some of the old people that want to act like kids out there. Mr. Mayor, can I ask a question, or Bruce, and maybe this is a dumb question, but all of this information was sent to us in that 5,000-page packet that Bruce sent us. And finally was able, and we all got the same packet. Is it necessary for Miss Felicia to go over every single item?
It's good because
Just if you
people
have,
don't
this is
necessarily
so if you
don't-
have questions.
yeah, people don't necessarily read through all of the packet. Additionally, if you have questions about this, as far as like materials,
Well, that's my
in this.
next question. Instead of her going through all this, can we just say, does anybody have any question about the consent agenda? And like I read it over, and I didn't really have anything, the things that was on there that kind of interested me the most, I'd already knew about, and I read about them. I don't know, is that,
It also helps the public who may watch this to know what the taxpayer dollars are
okay,
going to.
all right, I'll go with that answer.
So just another level of transparency there.
That's fine.
Any other questions on the ice skating rink?
I'm beginning to think Mr. Vice Mayor doesn't want to see me up here.
No, I don't, I just know this is a big, long,
He missed you when you weren't here for a while.
yeah.
So let's
I
move
like
on.
you, you got my
Trust me,
shirt.
sir, if there's nothing for me to deal with, I won't be here.
So moving on to state contract purchase patrol vehicles for the police department. This is going to be 10 police vehicles. This is going to be through
Yes.
Ford of Murfreesboro, which we've been told have the vehicles. We hope.
Please.
That's kind of
Yes.
gone back and forth. The cost of the vehicles are $37,386 each, so that's $337,000.
We do not normally come before you July 1st and ask for vehicles. We usually try to wait. We did wait until January for some Tahoes, and guess what? We still don't have those 5 Tahoes.
And this kind of helps us because one of the things that over the last few years we've been trying to kind of rotate our fleet to make sure that our older vehicles, our higher mileage vehicles are rotating out at the same time that we've also had a series of vehicle accidents. And so we want to make sure that our men and women have reliable vehicles to do their job.
True, but unfortunately, these 10 are not they're not gonna make us be up to date with what we need the 5 that are coming. And in all honesty, I would say we probably would need more, but this is what was budgeted,
Yeah.
this is what was asked for, so that's what we're doing.
Any questions?
This is for the Explorers, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to double check. I know we talked about it
Bruce
previously.
is very happy with that.
Yeah.
Is it in the budget, Phyllis? I mean,
Yes, sir, it's in the budget.
it's in the budget, okay.
All of those items, the vehicles and all the cameras and
So we wouldn't need to do a budget
everything
amendment.
they need to go with them is in the budget.
Correct.
We just normally do not come July 1st and ask for these, but since they're on the lot, we thought we would jump on it.
And that was on the summary sheet as well.
Yes.
So moving on to number 3, state contract purchase radar units for patrol vehicles. This is 10 radar units for those 10 vehicles. So
right.
it makes sense. It was authorized in the budget, and it's going to be $25,180. Is there any questions? Okay, moving on to 4. This is a University of Tennessee contract purchase for emergency equipment for our patrol vehicles. So I know
Yes, sir.
nobody saw that coming, but this was authorized as well in the budget. So is there any questions about it? Seeing none, moving on to number 5, the NIPA contract purchase for in-car radio systems and computers for our patrol vehicles. Again, it was authorized with the budget, and it's $115,970.32.
And there will be 10 of them.
Yes. Any questions on that?
Are these, Mr. Campbell, are these about the same as what we got, or are they a big upgrade, big up step?
They're just newer models.
They're just newer models? I didn't
They're
know.
the Ford Explorers, not the Chevy Tahoes.
No, I'm not talking about the vehicles, I'm talking about the video systems and the radios and all that stuff.
These video systems are the same consistent ones that we have right now with our current vehicles.
We're still using Motorola type deals.
These are Panasonic Arbitrator video systems. Our Motorola did not get me the bid in time to get the radios on the agenda this time, so that'll be next month.
But we still got some Motorola's, right?
Yes, sir, we use those for the radios,
Yes.
and those will be on next month's agenda.
Moving on to number 6, state contract and Sourcewell contract purchase, dump truck with snowplow for the streets department. Again, this is a budgeted item. This is for a dump truck to be used with a snowplow and salt spreader. As we discussed last year's weather event, definitely put a strain on our snowplows, so this is upgrading those.
And you know, we might need it with that ice rink.
Absolutely.
I hope we have a repeat. A few years back, we bought a new snow plow, and we didn't have to use it for 3 years. Maybe they'd be the same thing.
Maybe so, that would be a blessing, but we want to be prepared.
Okay, moving on to number 7, state contract purchase service truck for the fleet department. This is a Ford F-550 with a crane service lobby.
Body.
For the fleet department, and it can lift heavy equipment and parts for repairs. Total price is $106,100, and the vehicle is in the budget. So any questions? Seeing none.
Do you want to explain?
Number 8. So this is ratify amended purchase of truck for the codes department. Felicia?
Okay. As we are hoping that those 10 SUVs are on the lot, last month we came to you and there was supposed to have been a truck for codes on the lot. When we did the PO and asked for the truck, he said, "You might get it in November." And I said, "Thought this truck was on the lot." And he said, "Well, I do have some." So after speaking directly with Kyle and Bruce and then coming to you, we went ahead and got the truck that was available, and it's going to be about $4,000 more that we need to ratify in the codes budget.
Is that for Bo?
For Bo, no, that's the codes
Codes.
truck for Randolph's department.
I thought-
No, Bo got his
Oh, yeah.
Bo got his electric bike.
Bo knows. Any questions? Moving on to B, approve application for a roadblock to be conducted by Rolling Thunder, Tennessee Chapter 1 from 9 a.m. until 2 p.m. on Saturday, July 10th, 2021, with a rain date of Saturday, July 17th, 2021 at the intersection of Murfreesboro Road and Stones River Road. I think everybody is familiar on the board with Rolling Thunder and what work they do in the community. Does anyone have any questions about this? Seeing none. Moving on to C, approve Amendment 22-01 to grant contract 2019-37 with the Greater Nashville Regional Council for fiscal year 2021 to 2022. This is our annual contract with GNRC, with the Senior Center as far as for funding for them. As usual, they always get it in at the very, very last moment. So this would be for $26,800. Does anyone have any questions on this? Moving on to D, approve project development agreement with Path Company LLC to develop an energy efficiency program contract for LED street light retrofitting and upgrades. So this was first discussed at our planning retreat about going through and retrofitting all of the street lights with LED. And so the total cost for this is, for the study is $46,000, But at the end of the study, if the city decides to pursue with the installation with path, the cost will be rolled into that price. So that $46,000 will be rolled into it. This is something I know various board members over the years have said that they would love to see done, and see that energy efficiency as well as that lighting come. So does anyone have any questions?
The only question I got, does anybody know what happened to the street light at Mason and Sanders?
I'm not familiar with
I
that.
noticed I know it's gone about 3 months ago, but it was up for about 10 years. I just thought about that since the light. If anybody knew who stole the light.
It's in my cul-de-sac.
I know my father's lived over there for 20-plus years. I don't remember one, but you don't notice some things sometimes. Moving on to E, approved telecommunications service agreement with TDS to add and replace internet and TV services at Fire Station 41 and 42. Essentially, they offer a cheaper price for better service than Comcast, and this will add public internet service for Fire Station 41, where none currently exists, and add or replace TV service at both stations. There's no added cost to the city for this. Does anyone have any questions? Moving on to F. Approve agreement for engineering services from CTI for planning and preliminary design for the North Clayton Estates Interceptor sewer upgrade from the Hollandale sewer lift station to east near Shriman Boulevard.
Good evening. This is an interceptor that's needed replacement for some time. It's in a very difficult location, being behind the homes along Bill Stewart Boulevard between the homes and Sinking Creek. We've decided over the last several years it would be best to investigate this fully before we just went out to replace it. So this is a proposal to investigate the replacement itself and make a recommendation to the city on how best to accomplish that. It's an hourly contract from CTI for a not-to-exceed fee of $14,000, and like all of our hourly work we do with the city, you only get billed for what we do.
I know we worked on that pump over the years. You know how old that pump is? You have any idea?
Which pump?
The one you're talking about.
Well, the pumps would be at Hollandale Pump Station.
Mm-hmm.
I believe those were replaced about 6 or 8 years ago.
Who was the Einstein that came up with that? I'm just curious, to put them down behind them homes?
Well, I think it was put before the homes were there. It served North Clayton Estates, and then Lake Forest developed, and the homes built along the interceptor that's there. And so now there's maybe 50 to 75 homes that this runs through the backyard.
I know all about it.
Each one has a fence, each one has a shed,
I know all
difficult
about it.
area.
So who was the Einstein that put the houses in front of that? Never mind.
That's a whole different discussion,
A
so.
whole different discussion.
Any other questions related to this? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Moving on to G, approve agreement with Richard Cohen for economic development services. This is just renewing our agreement with him. He provides various economic development services to the city. Any questions? Moving on to H, approve professional services agreement with Navi Retail LLC for economic development services. Again, this is a renewal of our agreement with them. Casey and his team do an amazing job. Anyone have any questions?
I just like to say, I think that both these are we need them both, and then they do a very good
See the
job.
guy that came up here, one of those guys?
Yes.
Come up here and
Correct.
spoke to us?
Yes.
I got you.
Moving on to I, approve the renewal of the property and crime liability and workers' compensation insurance package for the fiscal year 2021 through 2022. This is our annual renewal. Does anyone have any questions about this? Moving on to J, approve a contract with the State of Tennessee Department of Transportation for the provision of a TDOT Global Navigation Satellite System Reference Network. Total cost for 3 years on this is going to be $1,050. This is TDOT's GNSS, and this is supposed to, if I remember Adam talking about it, it's supposed to get down to 1 centimeter for accuracy on where some of like the sewer accesses are. Does anyone have any questions? Moving on to K, authorize the city to submit an application for the Blue Cross Blue Shield Healthy Place Grant. This is a grant that I had spoken to David about a couple of years ago, where Blue Cross Blue Shield of Tennessee was looking for a location here in Middle Tennessee to do a grant. Of course, this little thing called COVID hit, and brakes were pumped on a bunch of stuff with them. They are opening that back up, and this is where they're looking at basically injecting $750,000 into communities for turnkey projects, so playgrounds, parks, and this is going to be a 100% fully funded grant if we're awarded it. That's, again, that word if. Does anyone have any questions on this?
No questions, just we went over that at Park and Rec and seen the pictures and got the layout and everything. I hope this is, hope this goes through and we get the money.
And we keep doing some massive investments with our parks. I know my first year we worked with Mencken Park. They've done the $200,000 for Veterans Memorial with the new playground. We were just awarded a grant through TDEC for Brookside to actually turn that from a walking path to an actual park. So we're wonderfully on a roll to keep improving that. Moving on to L, approve a master service agreement and statement of work with Civics Plus for the Civic Clerk Agenda and Minutes Management Software. This is going to be basically a $7,624 cost. It's going to have about $4,600 annual recurring for services, but it's basically it lets us to implement electronic packets for Planning Commission, for Board of Zoning Appeals. One of the things that we've heard over the years is that people who cannot attend the meetings don't have access to this. And then as we progress as a society, we're getting away from, borrow this, but these very large plans. So this would allow for electronic capabilities there. Does anyone have any questions? Moving on to M, approve adverse weather insurance coverage for the Old Timers Festival. This will be, just as it says, adverse weather insurance policy. So Old Timers Day is going to kick off the night of the 17th, Friday night. The event is scheduled through the 18th. So this policy coverage would be between the hours of noon to 9 p.m. both days. Adverse weather refers to like extreme conditions that may pop up. Total cost is $1,000 to provide coverage in the amount of $20,000. The coverage amount for Friday nights $6,000, and the coverage amount for Saturday is $14,000. These funds are available with the Old Timers Festival budget. Does anyone have any questions? Moving on to N, approve artist appearance agreement with Jill Thatcher for the Old Timers Festival. Jill Thatcher, if you haven't heard of her, is a ventriloquist. She does a puppet show for Old Timers Festival. So this agreement is for 2 shows, 30 minutes in length. The total cost is $770. And again, the funds are available in this budget. Is there any questions? Moving on to O, approve contract with TBP Events for an express trackless train for the Old Timers Festival. This is Vice Mayor No's favorite part of Old Timers Day is the trackless train. He rides it every year. But this is our contract for it. Total cost will be $1,415. We'll do a deposit of half of that, and then the remainder will be paid the day of the event. Again, the funds for this are available in the Old Timers Day budget. Bruce?
Mayor, we need to note on this one that our city attorney had requested some changes to this contract in regards to hold harmless provisions and indemnification. He can certainly explain that if needed. The vendor is not willing to amend the contract to make those changes. So it's up to the board if you want to continue with this or not, or take it off the consent agenda, move it down to new business, and we can go from there.
I would absolutely request that it be moved over to new business.
The vendor's not what?
He's not willing to make the changes that we have requested.
The contract, to do with the contract.
Yeah, I understand. I didn't hear what Bruce said.
So my request is to go ahead and move it out of consent agenda, put this into new business for Tuesday night. We can all review that in our packets and then basically make those change, or we can decide if we want to approve this without the changes or want to nix the whole idea. Evan, is there a way you could email the whole board what those changes are? Because I believe we just have the standard contract here.
Sure, and I'd be glad to do that. It's really just, they need to remove the provisions that would require us to indemnify and hold them harmless in the event that there was some liability issue that came up. And so in requesting that, as Bruce and Kyle know, this is 101 for me, that I strike out of contracts left and right as they come through here. And frankly, it is really rare to have somebody come in and say, we won't make that change. Most people understand why we want it out. The other component to that is that there's an attorney general's opinion in the state that local governments cannot indemnify third parties. So local governments can indemnify their officials and employees, but people that we contract to do business with, like vendors, we can't do that. So, you know, I'm a little bit shocked that they weren't willing to work with us, but.
And we went through that with another agenda item that's on here, so, before getting them to understand. So, David, if you've talked to them at all, there may need to be some more conversations with them.
What was the reason?
He stated that his insurance company would not let him waive that. I don't know, they were here several years ago, I would say 7, 8 years ago. Things were kind of done, I'm not sure back at that time if every contract came before the board and the mayor. So I think city admin would prefer you guys to see everything and have the mayor sign off on it. So it may have slipped through the cracks back then, it may have been done a little bit differently. But yeah, we'll reach back out to him tomorrow.
Thank you, sir.
Somebody mentioned this was in the old timers budget. What, does anybody, I know Phyllis is not here, anybody knows what the old timers budget is right offhand? 24,000.
Yes, sir.
So, Steve, we may have some hard decisions on that train ride of yours.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
so once we get the email from Evan, and then,
I have it as well. I can email it out to everybody, so I can email out those changes.
so legally then it'll be on point and we can vote on that if the
Well,
other party agrees to
No,
it.
it won't be on point. He's going to send, Bruce is going to send us the changes Evan is wanting. There's going to be some more conversation before Tuesday, hopefully with the vendor, and regardless whether they're willing to or they're not willing to, it will still come before this board Tuesday, and we will vote yea or nay on it. We're going to move it out of the consent agenda, move it into new business so that
Will we have time to defer it another month if need be?
There
the
should
board
be
can
enough
make that.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, the board can make that.
That's what I mean, if we make that decision.
There should be enough time to,
All right,
since.
because
conversation-
I guess the reason I'm pulling forward, I think that'd be really cool to have at Old Timers Fest, but I think the kids, a lot of adults would really, really enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm sure, I'm confident it's a great ride, and again, I'm really shocked that they weren't willing to work with us on this like everyone else is.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to P, approve extension to maintenance and support agreement with IDEMIA, Identity and Security USA LLC. This is the electronic fingerprinting machine that the police department uses, and this is just their renewal for that service. The total amount is $6,261. This is paid for out of the general fund, and it's in the repair and maintenance service line item. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, moving on to Q. Approve renewal of Patrick Leahy Bulletproof Vest Grant. This again is with the police department, and this is a grant. We've been doing it since 2007. Maintains basically 4 bulletproof vests. It's a total of 15 bulletproof vests. It's 50% reimbursement, so it's almost $5,000. Does anyone have any questions? Seeing none, we're going to move on over to first reading ordinance 2021-15, an ordinance to amend the City of Laverne zoning ordinance by changing the official zoning map for tax map 14, parcel 24, consisting of approximately 10 acres located at 147 Jones Mill Boulevard, or Road, from an R1 low-density residential zoning district to a R2 medium-density residential zoning district. This received a favorable recommendation from the Planning Commission on May 25th, 2021. A public hearing for this item will be held at 6:30 on July 6th, 2021. Does anyone have any questions about this?
So, from going from R1 to R2, how many more homes is that?
Adam, do you know that off the top of your head? I know we discussed that at the Planning Commission at one point, but I don't remember it myself.
The density for R1 is 2.9 units per acre. So if you drop the 10,000 square foot lot for R2, it's about 4.35.
About a house and a half.
You can go from 2.9 to 4.35.
Basically, you add a third, really. It's 15,000 square feet for R1 lot, 10,000 for R2 lot, so however many, it's a 33% increase, basically.
So is it 15, 20, 25 houses?
I think it's 18, is that right, Bill?
18?
It's not very many.
The plan they turned in is about 24
Okay.
So my only thing that I'm going to say about this area right here is between Hollandale, George Thomas, Jones Mill, Fergus Road, Sand Hill Road, even though it's a minute amount, until we get a plan to fix that, at least Fergus Road, I myself can't stop R1. That's a given. Can't do anything with it. But I myself is against that. I'm just giving you my opinion tonight for discussion. But, you know, that's just my opinion.
Okay. Any more discussion?
I think I tend to agree with Mr. No as far as the issues with the traffic, but I think we need to do something with the junction of Jones Mill Road. Something needs to be sorted out there, because obviously it's becoming a backup point now where people are just coming down there, and people on Jones Mill Road cannot get out of that street, so it's something we have to look at. The rezoning doesn't impact that. We'd have some time to adjust and get some of those things organised if this zoning goes through.
If we, I don't know what in the world, and I know that Mayor Cole has spoken about this before, and I guess I'd have to turn over to Adam, because I don't know what in the world you're gonna do, if anything can be done about Fergus Road without taking somebody's home or something. But then when you come up there at Jones Mill and Fergus Road, then you've got that offset there, then you got the curve, and then you've got people that won't, I'm sure Mr. Campbell can tell you plenty, that you know, you can put big flashing lights up there that says, please slow down, use some common sense. They're not going to do it. And regardless if it's an extra 12 or 15 homes right there, I think me and Conrad talked about it one day. There was 2 wrecks in one day there. And I just hate to see any more traffic out there until that is fixed. Now, I don't know what we're going to do with it. That's way above my pay grade. So I don't know.
So I'll address a couple of those if you would like.
Oh, absolutely.
So basically, most of our roadway safety issues in general in Laverne, and this is a broad and vast generalization, we have very unforgiving roadways. And when I say unforgiving, there's no shoulder. So if you, in modern society, you're looking at your cell phone, you know, you're trying to Facebook and drive, there's no shoulder for you to make a mistake on and recover. There's no, you know, tactile warning, no sounds, no rumble strip, nothing. You go from roadway to ditch to someone's front yard pretty rapidly. Fergus Road is pretty good example of that. Crothers Road's a good example of that. Blair Road's a good example of that. South Waldron Road's a good example of that. Most of your incidents basically stem from you just don't have any. If you make a minor mistake, there you are in the ditch. That's the same way people wind up in the yards. They take the curve too fast. There's nowhere to recover. There's not enough super elevation on that curve really to hold people on it. So that's a physics lesson that I'm not willing to teach tonight. But anyway, we could, you know, if the city would like to pursue, you know, roadway improvements, they're fairly common ones to do. It's just a matter of time and money, as with all things that we do around here. And as far as the intersection being offset, there's two intersections closer than I would typically like in an urban planning setting. You know, Jones Mill and Fergus, Sand Hill and Fergus being right there, kind of in that same stretch. So kind of one of the things that we could potentially pursue for a future project would be to realign maybe Jones Mill further down, or Jones Mill further down to clean some stuff up there. Or I might be thinking of Hollandale. I am thinking of Hollandale. So these
Hollandale and Sand Hill are like 150 yards apart, and then Jones Mill and George Thomas is like.
Felicia hits me about it all the time.
I'm gonna say, I believe Felicia and I had a conversation just a week or two ago about that.
But yeah, there's.
Yeah, but I guess that's a conversation for maybe another time in a different setting with planning or something.
I mean, you know, I take direction from the board and a lot of the work we do, obviously, and I'll propose work, of course, as well. So, I mean, if the board would like me to direct some effort into finding how much, you know, the consulting fees and stuff would cost, I can definitely do that. That's literally what y'all pay me for.
Well, Adam, we had a conversation several months ago about doing a survey at the curve for Fergus, and being able to hopefully improve the visuals so that people basically they take that blindly and they think that the speed limit doesn't mean a whole lot, and they find out it really does. Mm-hmm. So, and they find out the hard way. Yeah,
on the engineering budget, we do have money to perform minor work like that. Of course, you know, doing the shoulders from one end to the other, which is kind of a different conversation that we would necessarily have. Mm-hmm. That's a little different than the $20,000 my engineering extra professional fees can take, because we blow through it pretty quick in a regular year.
You know, out there, a center turning lane and a deceleration lane would help a lot.
I don't disagree,
I
but
drove that a lot, and a lot of your backup is when somebody wants to turn and they got to turn. It's just like Old National Highway and Jefferson Pike. If they had a center turn lane, that would eliminate 30 or 40% of the problem, and you could look at that citywide, you know.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that. The only, and I say a caveat to the general idea is that, especially on Fergus, I'd end up taking a lot of folks' yards to get a center turn lane kind of squeezed in,
or homes.
That's why I say it's way above my thought process, but you know, that 20-mile-an-hour curve there.
Oh, it's a problem.
A few people do it. A lot of people don't, and I don't know what you can do there, but getting back to this, that would be the reason that I would be, until we come up with that would be the reason that I would be against it.
So,
and I don't disagree with that, but it's from a traffic standpoint, and I'm just speaking purely from a traffic standpoint.
So
the difference between 18 homes and 24s.
So I've got two things here. I think if a month would be enough time I would say, Bruce, to put something onto the agenda for discussion for next month for us. That gives Adam some time to see what he can look at doing, what suggestions he would make for that area. At the same time, Alderman Coates, please correct me if I'm wrong, and you can add on to this, but with the Jones Mill portion that's specific to this, wasn't there discussion of some right-of-way for future road improvements with this?
That there was, and then just to answer your question, Steve, that there's 31 homes set up for the R2. So doing some calculus here now, you're probably gaining 5 or 7 additional homes going from R1 to R2. In addition, the existing home, from what we've been told by the developer, is going to remain. The home that's there now is going to remain in that position. And one of the lots is going to be kept as a stormwater detention area. So, and in addition, at a later date, there is some talk of taking the proposed road across to Morningside. So some other growth going on there too. So there's a lot more going on here. But I think, as the mayor just said, is let's look at immaterial whether it's R1 or R2. We need to improve that junction. Something needs to be done. All the residents I speak to out there are just, very upset about it. And I think Adam can do his job, and we'll put some forth information to get it put together and get the junction improved and make it safer.
I know personally I would like it. I know the folks that live out there. Back in the day when they opened up Bill Stewart and took that out of there where people were going around Hollandale, that was like a floodgate. It is what it is. We deal with it. We work with it. But in my opinion, one extra vehicle out there is right now is too many.
I'm gonna go and leave so you don't throw me out, but why does it need to be articulated?
Sir,
I'm out.
any other questions? Moving on to number 7, first reading ordinance 2021-16, an ordinance to amend Title 8, Chapter 1, Section 8-111 of the Verne Municipal Code regarding location restrictions for packaged liquor stores. Alderman Coates, would you like to take this one since this was a request of yours?
I will, yes. Just looking at the ordinance in front of you there, we're just looking at, as the city grows and more demand for liquor stores appears to be on the horizon, we wanted to take a look back at this that's been in position for many years, and just to add a few items, primarily add in a couple of roads to Industrial Boulevard and Old Nashville Highway. If you just look at the changes, it's pretty straightforward. I did meet with both liquor store owners the past couple of days, and they are here this evening because I want to get their input too on the changes that we're looking at. But if you just read it over, it's pretty straightforward. If you have some questions, both owners of stores are here for discussion. I'd just like to bring up one point that one store is generating between $600,000 and $650,000 a year in sales tax revenue.
Wow.
I think Laverne is already set up for 3 liquor stores, and we got 2, and it only can be on Murfreesboro Road and Walden Road. If I remember right, that's the way it was.
At our current certified population, we could have 4. And then depending on the numbers that we get, hopefully in August with the census, that may increase that number.
But still, I think they got to be on Murfreesboro Road and Walden Road.
Right, that's what he's speaking about changing in this ordinance.
So what we're looking at is adding a couple of areas too, just so if you read the text there, but Industrial Boulevard and Old Nashville Highway.
Yeah, my personal opinion on that would be, Laverne needs a lot of stuff, but a liquor store is just not on my high priority list of what Laverne needs. That's just my personal opinion.
Well, I can tell you, I fully support Industrial Boulevard. I know we are currently having some discussions with a major retailer that would like to set up there, and one component they've already spoken about would be liquor sales. So rather than, this is one that would make a sizable impact to our city. So not just with the liquor sales, but with other things.
I think a lot of people think in their mindset that if you start talking about beer and liquor sales, that you're advocating beer and liquor, which in this case, we're not. And if it's bringing in, as Alderman Coates says, $600,000 in sales tax revenue, and they're nice buildings and they're brick and they look good like the ones we have. As long as it's within the state guidelines of the per capita thing, you know, if you want to drink, you're going to drive 3 miles to get it, but, you know, if you've got something right there next to you, you'll go right there. So either way, you're going to go.
Now, Alderman Coates, I know you had visited with our local liquor stores. If you don't mind, I'd actually like to get their thoughts.
Sure.
And Mr. Patel and Mr. Sargent as well, if he's still here, I can't see.
No,
He just left.
He had an employee issue.
Okay, well, yes, if you could come up to the microphone, give your name, and just tell us your thoughts. I know this is addressing two things, both locations with roadways as well as distance requirements, if I'm correct. Is that?
That's correct.
Kevin Patel. And my main thing was, opening up, right now is a 1 mile distance and going shorter distance. So let's say we have liquor store both corner, on the Murfreesboro Road. Only thing is somebody come between us, which is gonna hurt our sale, which is whatever the revenue you're getting right now, you won't have it. It's gonna split up. So if you're looking something different way, so let's say Walden Road, so another corner all the way on the other side, or maybe like you say, Old Nashville Highway. I like to have only 2 liquor stores on the Murfreesboro Road, or 2 on the Walden Road, whatever you thinks.
Okay, so
Is
would it
right.
be fair that you're saying
Yeah,
that
because
you don't
you're
mind
not
the
bringing
roads?
revenue, but you're just taking away from us, which is not gonna help city. City might get the money for the license every year. That's it.
So is it fair to say that you're fine with the road additions, but you don't like the distance as far as that?
Should keep the enough distance.
Okay.
Plus every 10,000 population, 1 liquor store be reasonable.
Right. That's already state law. So that's already there.
So the ones on Murfreesboro Road, in my opinion, are a good distance apart.
That's good enough.
And that takes care of it. But
Right.
what they're talking about is moving it up close to the interstate on industrial,
That's correct.
which would take care of people over there.
See, that way you can have revenue from the Novansville or Smyrna or whatever, and you have Laverne store, which is Laverne gonna make good revenue.
Yeah, the industrial would pull from Smyrna, ideally there. Old Nashville Highway would pull Laverne and possibly portions of Smyrna.
If somebody wanna put between, let's say from this end of the, Antioch, which is, we are already
Right.
there on the border, and other cities liquor over there. And
So-
somebody might come in, putting in the Kroger side, like example, which is, they're gonna suck it up the revenue.
Do you think that one on Old Nashville Highway and one on Industrial is too close?
No, the Walden Road other side of the freeway.
No,
highway.
not on the other side.
No, but what I'm saying is if we put it on the other side of highway, which is, industrial area, I don't know what the
Yeah.
UPS and everything,
Right.
what is it? So that's a resident, you can able to cover some more, generate more revenue from the Novansville or Smyrna, which is closer.
And
And
then
that
the one
goes
on
to the
Old Nashville
Laverne.
would take care of the old part of Laverne. And then would it come back if this thing goes through out yonder on Walden Road, that we could do one out there?
Well, it's,
It is, Mr. Chairman. I mean, what it is presently now is a 1 mile distance. So we talked about in the revised ordinance to be half mile, and what he's suggesting from a business standpoint is to keep it at 1 mile.
I understand.
Don't change that.
I understand that,
Yeah.
but I'm talking about how many. in the city?
The city, it's all by population, so that doesn't change. So currently, we could have up to 4 that are a mile apart in the city. Once we get the census numbers, we could wind up with more than 4, but we won't know that part until then.
Okay.
But it feels like what he's saying is, he's fine with the 1 mile distance requirements that are currently in place, and he's fine with the additional road, location.
Right.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
we don't wanna, but you're not gonna do anything
Don't
about
be
it. so,
greedy.
You know,
Does anyone else have anything?
I just go back to say, I think Walden Road and Old National Highway, it's enough distance, they could put one up there where they used to have one right across from McDonald's on Walden Road, and that'd be the third one. We don't have the third one. I think, my personal self, I like to stay with New National Highway and Walden Road. Old National Highway, it's gonna be 15 years before we do enough improvements out there, and out there on the south end of Walden Road, everybody says we can do it in 5. I hope I live long enough to that road is widened, but, getting back to the liquor store, of all the stuff that Laverne needs, I think the liquor store is on a low priority, especially in mine, that's all.
no, I agree with you.
But they're
Then you
on-
might need more forces,
It's on
spending
Old
more money
Nashville.
to, control the publics.
Yes,
It's
ma'am.
on Old Nashville, correct? Not New Nashville? And-
There's not a new Nashville that I
Yeah.
know of. There's just Old Nashville Highway, which
Then-
is currently doesn't allow it, and industrial does not allow it. So
Right, so it wouldn't be on Waldron, it would be on industrial. Or is that in the industrial area? Did I read that wrong?
no, the industrial goes from Waldron Road and goes all the way up to the city limits right before you get to Target.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
I would say, I would propose that, and Alderman Coates, this is something you put together, but, adding the streets, but removing the reduction in distance, leaving that at a mile.
Agreed.
And so, Bruce, could we get that updated for Tuesday night?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to number 8. First reading ordinance 2021-17. An ordinance to amend Title 18, Chapter 4, Section 18-401 of the Laverne Municipal Code regarding sewer usage charges for the Blair Road Sewer Basin. Let me hop over here to this. This is adding, basically the city has entered into an interlocal agreement with the town of Smyrna that would allow Smyrna to provide sewer services to the Blair Road Sewer Basin, which is, whenever we say this, Portico Place may be a specific development that's out there that many of us are familiar with. But this agreement states that the city will bill its customers at the rate communicated to its government by Smyrna. Laverne shall then bill its water customers in accordance with the communicated rate and forward such payments per usage to Smyrna on a monthly basis. So essentially, the sewer fees collected from customers in the sewer basin would be forwarded to the town of Smyrna to pay for that sewage treatment that they're processing. There's no cost to the city for this. This is just, like I said, it's adding those sewer rates for that specific area, the Blair Road Sewer Basin. Does anyone have any questions about this?
I got the question. When I was mayor, this same question was brought up about the development out there on Blair Road. We was gonna get, water from Smyrna. That goes back, we don't have the infrastructure out there. If we gotta get water or sewer from Smyrna, we don't have the infrastructure, And when I was mayor, that's why, one reason I voted against development out there. If we're gonna have to get from Nolensville or Smyrna water, and we already pumping our sewer to Nashville anyway, and Smyrna, last I heard, they had an issue with their sewer. They're dumping it right into Gregory Creek down there, but, you know, if we can't provide the services to our citizens, I think something's wrong.
Well, this, just to highlight, this isn't providing water, so this is only sewer service. Adam, can you go into the details of that a little bit more than I do?
Yeah, so the, what we call the Blair Road Basin is the furthest basin basically away from all the city Interceptor sewers. Because of that, it has not been cost effective for the city to consider putting a pumping station over there, running a force main basically up Blair Road and tying it into one of our other interceptors like Hollandale. Because it's so close to the natural drainage, which kind of flows everything down off the hill there, down through what is now Portico Place, that development right there next to Smyrna, all that's gravity sewer. So they don't have to put in a pump station, you know, run force mains, do any of that. So it's really just the economies of a gravity system that make it a better deal for everybody for it to go to Smyrna instead of us trying to pump everything uphill. So I'm sure Michael appreciates one, not having another pump station, another force main, and plus all the attendant gravity sewer that we'd have to get everything down to the force.
Right.
So that's
fiscally, it's responsible to do it this way and to partner with our neighbors who are able to take this.
correct.
Okay. Any other questions?
I don't have any new question, but like I say, it'd been a short time ago, we was having to get water from Smyrna. You know, that tells you that we can't maintain what we got out there, and now we're gonna let Smyrna get a sewer. We pump our sewer to Nashville, Smyrna pumps theirs to a creek. You would think that Laverne would be in better shape to take the sewer than Smyrna, because you know, they pump theirs to a creek.
Well, I'm sure they're not pumping raw sewage into a creek, Alderman Waldron. As far as the water that we were receiving from Smyrna, that was directly due to upgrading our facilities, being able to provide better quality water by dealing with our nodules and our filter and mediation. So that's why we were partnering with them on that. I know there's been back and forth. There was times before in prior administrations, yours included, that got water due to different issues with the water treatment plant. This was just a planned upgrade to provide better quality, and I would think that's something that we all want. So, but they're not pumping raw sewage into a creek.
And another thing, if you build through Smyrna, like say Phyllis is not here, but you know that may cause a confusion, because I'm sure Smyrna is going to charge more than Laverne, and people say, well, how come that our water sewer is higher than across the street? And they say, well, because we get it from Smyrna. You know, when I was mayor, we had the same deal over there on the development. They was going to get the water from Smyrna. And that's one key thing that I was against over there. I said, if we can't take care of the citizens that we got, why do we need the 300 to 600 more houses? You know, we already pumping a sewer to Nashville, which we don't have a sewer plant. You know, and we've been doing it for a long time. I just don't understand why Smyrna can pump it to the creek better than we can pump it to Nashville.
Danny, can you tell us why we got water from Smyrna? And to take it a step farther, can you tell, or Bruce, can you tell us how much we paid for that water coming from Smyrna?
Zero.
Zero, correct? Zero. Because we're sister cities and they were helping us out.
And actually, recently, we've had to send them some water because they were having some issues. So we just help each other out.
This stuff ain't rocket science. Danny, why do we have to get water from Smyrna?
We did a filter rehabilitation project
project. So one side of the plant was not capable of maintaining demand in the system. So when we took off the new side of the plant, we borrowed water from Smyrna at about 1 million a day, roughly. About 1 million a day. That was from October to end of December, and then from January to beginning of April when we took the other side of the plant down. So as of the beginning of April, that ended.
I understand that. I already knew that. But talking about the sewer, you know, why can't we handle the sewer? If we can't handle the sewer, you know, 5, 10 years from now, when it's 8,000 houses out there, what are we gonna do? Let it flow in the ditch?
That's not for me to answer.
Thank you, Danny. So
I'll answer as to why the city doesn't have sewer. So many years ago, before I was born, basically the cities that surround Nashville came to an agreement that Nashville would have the only sewer treatment plant for those cities. So that includes Brentwood. I think there's 4 or 5 of us that all pump that direction. So that's why Nashville treats all of our sewer. Now, if the city ever wanted to even pursue a wastewater treatment plant, basically the Corps of Engineers would not let us, because we would discharge directly into the same pool of water where we get our drinking water. So that would make the water plant's life a little harder, because basically all of our creeks run directly into Percy Priest, and pumping our wastewater into Percy Priest, even though wastewater technology has progressed to the point that you can basically achieve direct potable reuse, meaning you can drink it directly from the back end of a wastewater treatment plant, but still not always an appetizing ideal. Long story short, TDEC is never going to let us have a wastewater treatment plant. They're just not. That long-standing agreement is going to trump what we want, and we're basically, Verne is always going to have to pump to Nashville. Smyrna doesn't pump to Percy Priest. They don't treat their water and put it in Percy Priest. They basically treat their wastewater and put it in the Stones River, just indirectly through, I think it's Gregory Mills Creek, if I remember correctly. So that's kind of how our wastewater has basically evolved into the system we have. We collect it, we send it to Nashville, they treat it, long-standing agreement. We pay them the cost of treatment.
And this is only the Blair Road sewer basin. So this is you're looking at Portico Place, you're looking at the trailer park area, you're looking at High Point, which Alderman Waldron, I know you're familiar with that. That was some of your land before you sold it, with the rock quarry, or your family's land. So anything with rezonings that we've already discussed aren't part of this. That's a completely separate issue. For this, it's just the specific area that's in your packet and on the screen as well.
Yeah.
And from my understanding,
everything y'all said, I already knew about it. You know, I've been renting all my life, and you know, I remember when Laverne didn't have sewer. You know, people had sewer running over the backyards at septic tanks. You know, sewer come in about 86. You know, I know all about that. You know, everything y'all said is just old news to me. But at one time, Laverne had a sewer plant. It was down at the end of Willowview, down by the near Shriman, and we abandoned that. You know, I know that. You know, y'all. But the thing about it is, if we cannot provide service to the citizens, something's wrong. And that's when I was mayor, and when they had the development on Blair Road, and they was wanting to get the water from Smyrna. That's one reason I was against any development out there, because if we don't have the infrastructure, you know, something's wrong. Look 5 or 10 years down the line, if we develop out there on Walden Road, it's going to be 8,000 houses in a 3-mile radius. Well, what are we going to do then? You know, we have a little problem now. You know, you got to look ahead. You got to look ahead. But everything y'all say, I just didn't fall off the cabbage truck this morning. I've been here a long time.
But Alderman Waldron, that you're comparing apples and oranges. This is you're not talking about all of Laverne with this. You're talking about one specific basin. That's what you're talking about. The areas closer to Waldron Road, there's like, you can see here in the picture, you can see the vineyards and you can see Windsong. They have sewer. And we're talking about upgrades to that pump station. There's the Ridge, which has sewer. You've got McFarland Point, Pinnacle Point, Martins Bend. You've got tons of areas, Summit View, Woodland Hills. We're not talking about any of those areas and addressing that with sewer. We're talking strictly on this Blair Road sewer basin that there is no pump station. You've already got homes, some homes that have been there for a number of years. You've got development coming on one side with homes, the other side coming with industrial property, and the gravity for the system takes it, instead of going uphill towards Laverne, you're going downhill towards Smyrna. And that Smyrna is saying that they've got the capabilities and the capacity to process this. So you wouldn't have someone who is at Portico Place looking at the trailer park across the street from them or the warehouses across the street from them saying they're being charged a different rate. This is the whole basin going almost up to, well, I think there's a sizable home on that one big chunk of land to the at the very edge there. But so it's not one where one side's looking at another. And fiscally for us as a city now, because in the past there hasn't been sewer run through here. I mean, different people have owned different parts of those properties, have owned them, have sold them, developed them for whatever reasons, and it's mainly just been either rock or treed areas. You're looking at the expense for that fiscally wouldn't be responsible. It would cost us more money to do that. And so if that's what you're arguing, that we need to spend more money to do that than the alternative, which is to work with a neighboring city who's saying they're more than willing to take that, especially considering the residential portion, at least the new residential portion of that one section, part of it's in Smyrna. I mean, you have people who, they're not across the street from each other. They're next door neighbors. If they didn't, would have separate rates. They have separate water rates. But this isn't dealing with any water. It's strictly sewer.
Yeah, everything you said, I already knew it. The trailer park, Rip Van Winkle built it in the 70s. I know all about that. And you said the rock quarry. The rock quarry wasn't supposed to be a rock quarry.
Right, that was illegally done.
Roy Lee Waldron just wanted to level the property out, and he was mining the rock, but it was a big story. But getting back to it, if we can't provide the service in the city or development, and you say the people's already out there and needs the service, well, they've been needing service out there for a long time, but they've been there a long time, and when they went there, and I think Rip built that trailer park probably in the late 60s, early 70s. They put septic tanks in there. That was county. That was county back then. It wasn't the city. The city had anything to do with Rip's trailer park. It was a county when Rip made it, and Laverne later on annexed it. But Laverne, anything to do with the septic tank, the city of Laverne don't have anything to do with it. That's state or county.
Okay, but so fiscally though, it's not responsible to go in and re-engineer this. It's like going in after.
Responsible to develop more than we can take care of infrastructurally.
So looking at the prices on this, it looks like it may be just a tad cheaper than what Laverne is, or it may be just a tad more, so that's irrelevant. So I'll just go back to Adam. Straight point question, Adam. We talked about this last month before, I think it was last month. The Arbor Ridge proposal, is Laverne equipped for water and sewer to handle this?
Hold on. This has nothing to do with Arbor Ridge though. This is just this basin.
Well, that's what he's talking about, as
Well,
far as doing
that's his confusion. This is solely just this
Mayor,
basin.
We're talking about getting
Alderman Waldron,
sewer from Smyrna.
just for this one basin. Kyle?
I would just like to point out that, we're discussing whether or not we should, or it sounds like the discussion is going, should we or should we not give sewer to Smyrna? That decision has already been made. If you look in the summary that's in here, basically it says we have already entered into an interlocal agreement.
It's amending the rates.
All this is setting the rates. So the decision that's being discussed back and forth, in my opinion, is a moot point. It's pretty much, we've got to set the rate. We've already entered into this agreement. It says in the agreement that we've got to charge, so that's what this is for, is just to set the rates.
And this was agreed upon with the prior administration and signed off on.
I don't know the exact date, I couldn't tell you that. I think there's maybe-
That's what I'm just saying. Dennis Waldron, mayor, this is all, so we're talking about stuff that,
This is amending the rates,
It's setting the rates to
or
begin.
setting the rates.
Yes.
yeah, this was
Okay.
approved by you, Alderman Waldron.
I don't doubt that, because, when you have issues, I mean, you've got to deal with it.
Exactly.
But I'm going back about over there, we're talking about sending it to Smyrna and the infrastructure. The reason I probably signed that, 'cause we didn't have the infrastructure. We didn't
That's
have
an
the
entirely
ways to manage
separate, that's an entirely separate
what-
discussion.
I know
This is
what-
about the rates, so do you have any questions about the rates?
I guess not.
Does anyone else have any questions about the rates?
I'm so confused at this point, I don't know. So if,
This is amending the rates,
okay, great.
so.
Thank you.
Moving on to 9, first reading ordinance 2021-18, an ordinance to amend the fiscal year 2020-2021 general fund budget. This is expenses and revenues related to the THDA home grant and the TEMA Safe Room grant. Does anyone have any questions? Seeing none, moving on to first reading ordinance 2021-19, an ordinance to amend the fiscal year 2020-2021 State Street Aid Fund budget. And this is additional expenses incurred for guardrails, salt, and striping. Does anyone have any questions? Number 11, first reading ordinance 2021-20, an ordinance to amend the fiscal year 2020-2021 Senior Citizens Fund budget. This is to deal with an unforeseen expense. The HVAC unit experienced a bad heat exchanger, so that required a complete replacement of the unit. Does anyone have any questions? Number 12, first reading ordinance 2021-21, an ordinance to amend the fiscal year 2020-2021 Stormwater Fund budget. This is for some unbudgeted expenses, some engineering expenses for the master drainage plan, the Public Works building, and the Gamble Lane Detention Basin. Does anyone have any questions? Moving on to 13, first reading ordinance 2021-22, an ordinance to amend the fiscal year 2020-2021 fire impact fee budget. And this is unbudgeted expense. It's bank service fees. Does anyone have any questions? Moving on to 14, resolution 2021-19, resolution of the City of Laverne to appropriate funds to nonprofit organizations for fiscal year 2021 through 2022. And this is a resolution to appropriate and authorize payment of funds that have already been approved in the budget. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, moving on to 15, appoint or remove board and committee members. First, we have the Beer Board. And so Isabel Williams has resigned from the Beer Board. We're advertising this position both on Channel 3 and on social media. We have received one application late this afternoon, so that is not in your packets today, but we will be getting that out to everyone. But if you are watching at home, or if anyone knows of anyone that's interested in this board, feel free to have them fill out an application and get it in before we meet on Tuesday. Next up, we have The Board of Zoning Appeals, we've got one term vacant, and that was Elizabeth Dandler, who she resigned due to leaving the city. Currently, we have one applicant, Steve McGill. You should have his application in your packet. And again, we will be accepting applications, so if anyone's wanting to serve on this board, just fill out the application and submit it to Bruce Richardson. Next, we have Economic Development. We have one term that's expiring. It's Floyd Dennis. His expired on the 30th, yesterday. We have reached out to him. He does wish to stay on this committee that he's served on for a number of years. We also have 3 applications. We have Luann Grandinetti, we have Steve McGill, and we have Becky Pollock, who have all applied for this. Again, this is being advertised on Channel 3 and on social media, so if anyone is interested, they can pick up the application and apply. Next, we have the Planning Commission, which I appoint, and that is Lance Lee, who has resigned from the Planning Commission, citing some conflicts with his work where business is picking up, which is a good thing. We currently have 3 applicants. We've got Terry Coleman, Giles Perry, and Becky Pollock. So if we get any more before Tuesday, they will be added to this list, and I'll make that appointment on Tuesday. Next up, we have the Senior Citizen Advisory Committee. Jennifer Webb, her term is vacant, or her position is vacant. We currently have one position, Shermel Balbosa, who just recently actually did our Juneteenth event. So if anyone is interested in that, you can fill out an application and submit that before our meeting. This has been advertised on Channel 3 and on social media. Moving on to number 16, we're going to talk about the log cabin on City Hall property. Just to go ahead and give everybody some background, there has been some research on this property and found that of course, this is not the original site, and the people who found it actually found it whenever they were doing some demo work in their house. So they're not even the original family that occupied it. And David and his team have reached out to Cannonsburg Village with Murfreesboro Parks and Recreation, I believe Mount Juliet, and then there's also a TV show y'all reached out to.
Yeah, there's a TV show, Barnwood Builders DIY Network. We contacted them, and at first their secretary sounded like they were interested in it. She passed it on to Mark Bowe, who is the host of the show, and we never got a contact back. So we're here before you guys to see how we need to go about, or what we need to do with it. I don't think at this point we could probably give it away. Everybody we've reached out to, we haven't had any interest in. So I don't know the best way to go about doing that. Would we gov deals it? Would you donate it to somebody that's interested in it? I'm not sure though.
I'll give you my input on it, because when they moved it from over there to Stones River and Road behind the Civic Auditorium, they put it right behind the CDI building. And everybody didn't like it there, so they formed the Laverne Historic Preservation Committee in 2002, 3 or 4, and they put me as chairman on it, and the first thing they dumped in my lap was that cabin, what to do with it. They told me to do something with it, but they didn't give me no budget. So we talked about it, studied about it, so then we said we'll move it down by the creek, move it by the creek, and then we had a different things, look at it, logs. We had somebody gonna give us some logs. We took some logs up to the sawmill, and they didn't want to cut it because they didn't know the nails in it anyway. And that's where it was, and that's where it left. And then got to looking at it, it needed a whole lot of work. And somebody said, well, we could spend $100,000 on it, and it still wouldn't be perfect. My opinion on the cabin. 20 years ago, when it was 15, when it was over, the people were still alive that had interest in it. Anybody that had any interest in it is done passed on. You know, my father, Miss Carey, you know, they done passed on. And anybody that's alive now, very few of them even knows anything about it.
Well, I reached out to, I think there's 3 surviving children from Mr. Pat White. I reached out to one of them. One of them lives in Smyrna, Jimmy. He said they had no interest in it as far as had no family ties to it. I don't believe it was their original family home, that they moved there after his dad was already born. So they didn't even know what was in there until it started being demoed.
Right.
So he said we had their blessing to do what we wanted to do with it.
My opinion on it, I wouldn't spend $100,000 or $150,000 of my money to fix it up in the taxpayers' money. So, I'm sure in 200 years, it served some purpose. But, if we can get rid of it, I have no problem with it. The city's been back and forth on it for over 15 years, and that's where it's at, and I feel it's not gonna get done, The city's not gonna spend $150,000 to fix it, and then you gotta have to maintain it.
We got
I feel
one
like
rough
the city needs to
estimate.
spend $150,000 somewhere else.
Yeah, we got one rough estimate to do some repairs. This was after reaching out to 3 different companies. It was about $60,000. That didn't address the roof, it didn't address the chinking, it didn't address the floors. So that was basically coming in, repairing one log if it needed be. The others were like $10 a foot. So, we couldn't see putting the money into it. So I guess what we're asking is, how do we dispose of it?
So this is a Bruce and Evan question. So at this point, we've attempted to even give it away and are struggling to do that. If we have, whether it's city staff, whether it's any organization that's interested in it, rather than go through government deals, which I don't think you're going to have people pay for it since we can't give it away, is there a way that we can donate this to an individual or to a group and let them handle as far as if they're wanting it, they can haul it away, whatever pieces? Because I think currently in its current state, we've had to rope off around it because one of the walls looks like it's going to fall out. And I know we've had multiple issues with some homeless people setting up their living area in there. So is that an option?
Mayor, I'll try to take a stab at this first. I think, and I'll need to book this just to double check on it, but in the back of my mind, I think there is a problem with donating actual city property to like a nonprofit. I think a municipal government can donate to other municipal governments, okay? Assuming we could find another government that might want it. But in terms of giving to a nonprofit or to somebody just in general, I don't think that we could do that. And again, I'm saying all this with the caveat that I need to go back and check what I'm telling you. It may not be accurate. The other thing is, my only thought is that this would be treated as surplus city property and disposed of pursuant to those rules. I'm not sure that we have any other options, but I'll check for sure.
But that doesn't
Now, if you
necessarily
guys
mean
were to
gov
say,
deals.
can David get rid of that? You could probably show up one day and it'd be gone.
So from listening,
But there again, it is a city asset. It is city property, it is city asset, so we need to make sure we do it the right way instead of telling somebody to go light a match to it, which we don't want to do.
okay, so from what I'm hearing is,
Chief,
we need to get that can back out here. Okay, I mean, let's call it what it is. If this board's gonna take care of this, just do it. Quit kicking that can. David, get rid of it. Tuesday night, we'll vote on it and say, David, get rid of it. We don't care how you do it. Just
I
make it go
wouldn't
away.
light a match to it. I
Well, let's
wouldn't do
keep,
that.
hold
no,
on, I don't know.
haul
that-
it off, get a dumpster and put it in a dumpster.
Hold
But
on.
if we're not gonna deal with this, get that can back out here.
I don't know for legal purposes that we can go ahead and vote on that at next month's meeting because it would have to be listed under our surplusing. It's not on the current agenda to have items surplus to the city's needs. So that would have to be advertised legally, so it couldn't happen until next month. But I agree with you, this is, at least from what Alderman Waldron said, this has been an ongoing issue for years that regardless of the money situation, a solution hasn't been proposed. So, Bruce, do you have something?
Yes, if the board wants to get rid of this cabin, the best way to do it would be to put it on GovDeals, just see if anybody wants to buy it, even if it's for $1. And
He's been doing it,
they
hasn't
come move it and take it away.
It hasn't been on GovDeals,
Now,
no, sir.
once it goes on GovDeals, if it doesn't sell, we can dispose of it however we need to.
Okay.
But
we have to take
we
that
have to
step
take that
first.
step before.
And we don't have to vote on it.
No, we would have to
There
vote
will
on
There
that.
would be
Still
a
have-
resolution in order to.
We're gonna be talking about this for another month
Yes.
Or two.
or two. I want that can out here with a big red flyer in it until that cabin's, nobody else has took care of it. Let's at least take care of that.
Okay. Any other concerns, questions about this? Thank you, David. Okay, the next discussion item. Dawn, I'm going to ask you to come up to the podium on this one. This is tattoos and short sleeves, shorts policy. This is an item that Vice Mayor No had, and I know it's part of the long drawn-out personnel policy that we're actually getting to the end of and working with MTOS on. So currently, our personnel policy, I believe it requires that tattoos be covered up, and staff is not allowed to wear short sleeves or shorts whenever they're working. And so I know we have some events, especially with, I want to say David's guys, I see quite a bit where they're having to wear basically long pants in the winter or in the summertime. They're sweating it out. So I know one thing we've discussed in the past when we've discussed the personnel policy was the option of having short sleeves at city events. Now, as a token rule across the board, I have concerns of it just as a regular basis myself if you're doing it during regular work hours because, David, your group cuts grass some, correct? Yes, sir. You gotta do some weed eating, correct? And sometimes those rocks go flying. Sometimes there's glass out there where people don't find a trash can and that stuff can chew up a leg, which is not what we want, I would think. And then in regards to tattoos, I was looking at some of the Smyrna policies stuff. And I agree, I like some of their stuff, nothing offensive, nothing here, but if you have stuff back here or under your, below the neck, you were pretty much fine. But that's all stuff that we're working on with this personnel policy that's being wrapped up. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And it's not just this stuff, it's everything with the personnel policy. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, from front to back. But dealing with the tattoos, Smyrna, as well as a lot of other different municipalities, have used the federal guidelines, also the federal guidelines as far as allowing tattoos while in either uniform or within service of their duties. They have some restrictions, and that is you cannot have any tattoos on your face, neck, head, or lips or eyelids. They do allow full or half sleeve tattoos. There are some do's and don'ts. Can't be considered obscene, associated with any gang activity, extremist or supremacist in nature, sexist or racist tattoos, ethnic or religious discrimination tattoos. It's not to say that you're not allowed to have religious tattoos. You just can't have religious tattoos that are defame one or another. And so in consideration of that, also some of the in some of the federal government guidelines, they also stated that in recent studies have concluded that more than 4 out of 10 adults have tattoos, and that nearly half of all millennials have at least one tattoo. So since this is becoming more commonplace, then some accommodation has been looked into, so probably what we're going to be doing going forward as far as being able to consider those to be written into our policy manual.
Bruce and Don, how far time-wise would you say that we are from having a personnel policy proposal in front of this board? Because this is, instead of kind of piecemealing it, it's comprehensive. It's updating something that's not been updated comprehensively in a decade or more.
No, it's not that long, but, you know, I would like to think that we could have this done in 2 to 3 months with everything that we're looking at. We're having MTAS review it for the legal side of things, and we'll also get Evan involved in that more as well. But, you know, I would like to think 2 to 3 months, we could have it before this board for approval.
Okay.
That sounds doable.
So I also spoke with Jeff Peach, the attorney for Smyrna, spoke to the mayor, spoke to Brian Hercules,
Smyrna's mayor, not,
Smyrna mayor.
not me, just for sunshine laws.
And I had a conversation with Bruce, and I know all those federal guidelines and stuff are, they're way apart on some, they're very vague on others, and that's just something you have to deal with. But I work out in this stuff, and it's miserable. And I think that you and Bruce need to come up with an ideology that each department head would be in charge of deciding what is unbecoming as a tattoo, even here in City Hall. Now, Bruce has got some good points, the professionalism of it. I totally understand him. Maybe in City Hall, things might need to be a little different. David, we talked about the grass cutting and stuff, and there's two things that can happen with that. They can either, I don't know how far out advanced they know if they're going to cut grass the next day or if they're going to weed eat or whatever. They could change clothes. Or David said they have or could get some of those leggings that you wear when you're cutting grass. Mm-hmm. Wearing shorts and T-shirts and stuff at events like Old Timers Day, July 4th, up there on the weekend. The chief of fire and police, I seen those guys out there on a day like today in this hot garb. Man, that's just, I'd have a heart attack myself. But I think the short sleeves, because you know, if my house is on fire or if my grandson's hurt, man, I don't care what you got on. As long as you know what you're doing and you're on your way to my house, I could care less. I know probably Michael and Garland's people are out there. It's hot. But I think we need to meet the employees somewhere in the middle. Let the department heads take over and say, that tattoo is okay. You can wear a short sleeve for this job, or you can wear shorts for this. Same way with, because I know the police and fire has got to be miserable out there. So, but like I said, I had a talk with Bruce, and we were kind of meeting in the middle on things, at least talking about it. But that's kind of what I'd like to see. And instead of 2 and 3 months, I'd like to hear Bruce say we'll have it done in maybe a month or two. So, but that's my case for the employees.
I put my 10 cents worth in it. I hate tattoos with a passion. But my family's been in the military for years and years, and they've always had tattoos when they're in the military. And I know we've had a tattoo policy, but the firemen and policemen is like the military. They like tattoos, especially in the police, the undercover people. And I think if we can get some kind of uniform plan, maybe copy it from Smyrna or different things, no face, this. I think it's, I know I can live with it, and I think most people can live with it, but that's my take, and I'm gonna get down off my soapbox on this deal.
Right. And it's because the norms in society have changed in the 21st century, and we change with it. That's just normal. As far as the shorts go, I've talked and met with David, and David told me that at one time there were shorts allowed, but if they were weed eating or in danger of kicking up anything to get injured, what they would do is they would always keep a pair of pants in their locker, and they would wear the pants if they were on that type of duty during that day, and then they would switch back over to shorts if they were not. So there's some, there's a lot of discussion going on and weighing this out, but yeah, to have a uniform guideline for the employees is desirable, so that we're all operating off the same and treated the same. And I think that we can do something that's reasonable.
Okay. That sounds like some clear direction, at least with the, with regards to, with the personnel policy and developing that with regards to these items. Does anyone else have anything?
I have a couple things. Obviously, my opinion is biased, but especially with PD and fire, it doesn't change the way any of the fire guys are gonna come save anyone in the city. It doesn't change if they have tattoos, how PD is gonna patrol, gonna do anything. None of that changes their jobs. Just the same with David and his guys. It doesn't change how they cut the grass or weed eat just because they have tattoos. So I agree with the vice mayor on making a change to that, and I agree with Alderman no, nothing above the neck, don't get crazy with it, but especially on the weekends when the parks and recs guys and gals are out there working on their time, like, shorts should be okay. It's 900 degrees outside, and if any of us want to show up in shorts, it's fine, and I think it should be for them as well.
Okay. So there's some items to work on with the personnel policy.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Like your haircut.
Last item, discussion item, Public Works and Community Development Services Center, Mr. Leach.
Mayor, Board of Aldermen, I'll introduce Mr. Tim Lamb. He's our architect on this project. In front of you, there's two sets of full-size plans. Tim, if you'd like, you can come up. We can say we're saving the best for last. But really, we've talked about Public Works Building and Community Development Services Center for a while. Just, the board has, staff has. There's been a obvious glaring need for more office space throughout the city. Obviously, our current Public Works facility is in a state of dismal repair. I would probably put it slightly below poor if I could. We're maxed out on space. Engineering, codes, planning. We've got one cube left, and we're going to hopefully fill it whenever we fill that job. So our already undersized staff will not have any additional room to grow. Public Works, Mike, Garland, they're also in the same boat. They're turning closets into offices when they can. I think they've now officially ran out of closets. Of course, this will also house IT. If you've been to IT lately, you've seen the various materials that he keeps on hand that are necessary to keep this city in a semi-competent state of repair. That said, needs a room as well.
Oh, thanks.
So what we did was we basically partnered and hired CEC as the basically the prime consultant on this, because we developed the site plans first. Lamb and Associates, Mark Buck and Tim Lamb are our architects on this. And what we have for you, the big set of plans is the site plans, show you the site parking, improvements, etc. It's not the full site plans because there's a lot of civil details that we have them if you want to see them, but for the most part, generally, you'll see the layout there. We've also got Mr. Lamb's elevations, kind of what we worked on to show how the building looks. And I'll be here for the civil questions, why we did things with the parking, water, so all that fun stuff. But really, I left the architecture to the professionals, and Tim is a consummate one, so I'll let him answer any questions you have about why the building looks the way the building does. And just as a warning, we have not fully designed the building. That was not in the scope of work, so we'll still have to get another contract if you guys like what we've kind of put together here. Assuming that's acceptable, we'll pursue another contract with Mr. Lamb to basically finish out the design, plumb it, air conditioning, and all that fun stuff that'll really make the building work. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Lamb, if that's all right, Mr. Mayor.
Well, thank you, Adam, Mayor, Alderman. Appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight, and we certainly appreciate the opportunity to have worked with these guys over the last year or so. Worked primarily with Kyle and Adam to try to sit down with all the department heads and determine the needs, and we finally came up with a program of needs for the building. That basically culminated in identifying 9 different areas that we needed to house in this facility. One being public works, then you have engineering, planning, economic development, water billing, buildings and codes, information technology, shared spaces. These are shared spaces that can be shared among different departments. And finally, vehicle parking and storage. And that's an item in itself because there's so many vehicles that the city operates and maintains and must keep secure and safe during the times they're not in use. So we took all of this information, we broke it down into, as I say, the program of needs, and from that we started laying out a floor plan, and what you have before you is the final edition of that. I say final, it's never final till it's built. There's still a lot of tweaking to take place and a lot of input to be had from anybody in this group. But we think we're off to a good start, and with that, I don't know if you have any slides, Adam?
We have them in our packet.
Okay, you have them in your packet. So you've had a chance to look at the building, kind of study it. As I say, it kind of houses all these groups that we noted. As far as the civil plan, we've tried to identify areas on the site that would accommodate employee parking and public parking as well. If you look at the floor plan, basically the building is divided into basically 3 areas. We'll call it the T plan, and the top of the T houses basically on the left to about 2/3 of the way down on the right, the public works facilities. Have a lot of open bay maintenance facilities, that type of thing, warehouse storage and so forth. Then you get more into employee areas with toilets, bathrooms, showers, that type of thing. And then we're also housing IT and part of the engineering, public works engineering department in that facility. You come on down the T, let me just say the top T, part of the T is a 1-story structure, except for some mezzanine spaces where we'll have mechanical equipment, things of that nature. Then you come on down to the leg of the T, and it's a 2-story building, basically accommodating the public functions like water and bill pay and drop off of design plans and things of that nature. And if you wanted to come visit with someone in the engineering department, you would come in that particular entrance. And then we also have another entrance in the top half of the T building, part of the T, to access public works if you needed to meet with them. So that's in a nutshell how the building's laid out. Any questions I can answer?
The only thing that comes to my mind without looking it over.
Yes.
I think whatever we go with, it needs to be where it can be built on for expansion. I know when they built the police department, they cut costs and it wasn't made to go up or out or whatever. Just for the long range, I'd like to see this structure built where 10, 15, 20 years down the line, it can be enlarged.
Well, that's a great idea, and we talked about that at the workshop setting, and we think we can accommodate that in part. If you look at the site plan on the east side of the site that's not a blue line stream, but we have to maintain the distance.
It's, TDEC thinks it's a blue line stream, so we're going to pretend it's a blue line stream.
So we're limited to where we go on the site, but you do have a big piece of property there, so we can accommodate future construction.
I'm talking about the building, make sure the building is structurally to go up or out.
Yes.
Well, I want to thank you for what you've done. I know I've seen multiple iterations of this. I think it's an amazing step forward. I know several years ago, the city did a space needs assessment that really has not been acted upon. by any administration, and this is a huge step forward. Randolph, I know I had a conversation with you during the budget proceedings because I wanted to add in some more codes enforcers, but what'd you tell me? You don't have space for them. There's nowhere to put them. And so this starts that process and makes it so that whether it's Garland's group, Michael Dietz's, Adams, Bowe's, Randolph's, economic development, it addresses our current needs and it allows for future growth.
Yes.
So thank you to you and your team for putting this together.
Couple of questions or comments. I agree with Alderman Waldron. We need to plan ahead at a later date for growth. When that's going to be, we don't know. Who's going to be around, but I think just to plan ahead that we have the space allocated, or at least the idea of where we can add on to it is an important.
Okay.
Number two, if you would just explain the thinking on the water billing of having the drive-through with the 2 windows and for me, common sense doesn't prevail there. What's our thinking there?
It was requested by the department.
I'll speak to it just a little bit, because I was chief pot stirrer on this, I guess. So what we were having was, basically our conversation with Allison is that, currently if you have 2 people in line, one person has a problem, you hold the entire line up, because people, if they have a real problem, oftentimes they'll elect to go through the drive-through, and you back the drive-through up a fairly significant way. And I'm sure anybody that's been to City Hall on a day that someone's had a bad day in the drive-through at Water Billing can attest that we'll screw up the whole parking lot here. So with doing it this way, at least 2 people can have a bad day simultaneously, and if they are having a terrible day and somebody just wants to walk in, they can drive around them. So essentially you have a passing lane and the ability to service 2 customers simultaneously.
So I agree with Alderman Coates. Is the space that thing's gonna take up and the extra money that it's gonna cost, is it worth, is that worth that? I mean, I know it backs up out here, but you're in such a confined space and it looks bad. If you got that kind of space out there though, it probably wouldn't be as, I'm just wondering,
It's the difference in cost of a window or no window. I mean, we still gotta have all this, basically the office space doesn't change. So we're, on a cost basis, you're debating, do we want a window or not a window? And I mean, from our perspective, and I know we looked at it from a customer service perspective, which is what I think staff should be doing. We want to be able to serve people quickly. I think the water billing department, and they might have a different opinion, I think they've got the staff that we could serve 2 people simultaneously. And for whatever reason, people in Laverne really like coming to some place to pay their bills. So the more people we can serve faster is obviously a benefit to the community at the cost of a window.
It's a common complaint from residents that if they don't have their bill or they have a problem, that they can't use the drive-through. They don't like being forced to park and come in. And so this allows that option.
Yeah, and speaking with Allison, that's kind of one of the main topics of what it is. For one, it can be simultaneous, but for 2, there's a lot of things other than just making a payment that you come into water billing for. So, and most of the time, people that are going to use the drive-through do not want to come in, do not want to park. So they're going to pull up to that first window. If it is something that's going to be time-consuming or long, they're going to ask them to pull to the second window. That way the first window is still open for payments and stuff. While if you've got somebody that's want to set up service that's going to take longer, that's not willing to come in, they can be at the second window and it's not backing up as much. Plus, like Adam stated, there's a pull through. So she feels it's needed. I feel like from what I experience here, I think it's well worth the expense of the additional window, especially with like what Adam's stating, the interior is not going to change. You're not losing space. It's just adding another window.
Any other questions, concerns, thoughts? Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Moving on to Aldermen, our mayor and Alderman comments. Alderman Waldron.
Well, honestly, I come in here tonight loaded for bear, but my bladder has been about to bust since item 9. I'm gonna say this, and then I'm gonna have to leave y'all. For months, I've sat here and this board has criticized the previous administrations and talked about kicking the can down the sidewalk or whatever. But it's like Mr. Broker said, when we was in here, when I was sworn in 14 as mayor, we had basically $48,000 in the kitty, and we had about $1.5 million worth of bills. And it's like pouring a 10-gallon jug of water in a coffee cup. And I got a cousin that's a lawyer in Murfreesboro, and he always told me, if you go to court and you got a case, you present it. If you ain't got squat, you sit here and pound on the table and blame somebody else for it. Think about it, when this board come in a year and a half or 2 years ago, they come in here with a silver spoon in their mouth with $21 million in the general fund. If they'd have come in here with $4,800 and scuffled like all the other boards had before, you know, if you come in here with $21 million, if I had $21 million in 2014, I could have paved the streets with gold. And I'm gonna finish my soapbox talk Tuesday night, but I've got to go to the restroom.
Alderwoman Honeycutt.
Okay, so 4th of July, our celebration that we're having on the 4th, obviously, that was kind of a given. Sorry, my brain's catching up. I encourage everybody to come out and join us. It's gonna be a really good time, always is. David and his guys and gals do an awesome job, as well as everybody else that helps along with, in the city. Fireworks safety. I'm sure our fine PD and fire department do not want to deal with people blowing their hands off, fingers, toes, setting grass on fire, houses on fire. So, you know, think about fireworks safety this coming up weekend, because I'm sure we'll have a lot of it. And words are hard, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Alderman Coates.
No, I'll pass this evening. I think we'll move on and get things wrapped up.
Vice Mayor, no.
I just agreeing with Alderman Honeycutt. I was just looking at the weather here. So Saturday and Sunday. So you got farmers market Saturday. The farmers down there that'll be there told me they'd have fresh fruits and vegetables. 4th of July, I'd like to remind everybody at home to please be careful with your fireworks, please. I'm glad we got the budget done, going. The ladies and gentlemen will be able to get what they need. And I'm glad we got Mr. Don back there working with Bruce, and hopefully we'll have these folks cooling off before the summer's over. That's it.
Well, I won't take much time, but I do look forward to seeing everybody Sunday for the Independence Day celebration. Please make sure to come by and say hello if you're there. I always like to see friendly faces. I do want to take a moment and thank everyone, both staff and in the community, who have reached out to my father and I over the last week and a half, where my sister passed very unexpectedly. This community's kindness and love and the city's love for our family is very much appreciated. Thank you. Call this meeting adjourned.